the slides?
Yes, sir.
So the differential diagnosis can be nanophthalmos with a right eye CRVO or a posterior microphthalmos with CRVO. So the points in favor were high hypermetropia, reduced axial length, shallow IC, occludable angles, large lens, and increased sclerochoroidal thickness. So we came to a provisional diagnosis of a nanophthalmos with a right eye CRVO in view of the anterior segment findings. Next slide, please. There are few case reports in the study, few on PubMed search, which have correlated nanophthalmos with hemiretinal, but because of the rarity of the disease, there are not much literature available. Next slide, please. There are few other reports also and case series which have correlated an axial length, refractive error, and keratometry with predispositions to RVOs. So, in order to hypothesize, we have a hyperopic eye with a short axial length. So it might lead to a small lamina cribrosa. The crowding can be crowding at the lamina cribrosa with a thick sclera and a narrow scleral canal. And this may lead to a relative mechanical blockage in the vein and turbulence of the flow in the vein, causing a thrombus, predisposing to a nidus of thrombus formation, and it may lead to an RPO. Yeah. So what are the points to ponder in nanophthalmos and to our expert panelists is that there is an associated glaucoma. We have an increased lens eyeball volume rosacea. There is an associated ciliocoroidal effusion or ciliary body detachment. And so in this case, what can be the normative data for the CMT and what should we take it as a normal? And how to extrapolate in this view of a papillomacular fold in anophthalmic eye. And let's say after 3 months or 4 months, the patient needs a PRP. So should we go for an extensive PRP, or what are the chances of risk of developing a choroidal detachment post PRP? So thank you.
Thank you very much, Abhishek. Can you stop sharing so that we can come to the panelists? Yeah. Who would like to take this?
So,
very interesting nanos here.
Do you confirm that is it a nanophthalmos or a microphthalmos? Because if you see the axial length, it is very, very short.
Yeah, but the lens volume appears to be normal. So this fits into the classical description of an nanophthalmos with a normal lens. So the lens with axial length volume appears to be predisposing to a nanophthalmos.
Yeah, I agree. I think they have a fair case. This is a coincidental pathology, two different pathologies happening the same thing. We know in nanophthalmos there is uveoscleral outflow issues. There is a compromised or a altered sclera in most cases, type 1 and type 2 in the effusion cases. So this could be a crowding of the disc with this resultant vascular occlusion. I think you're on the right track with management. You've done fairly well. It's a tough case to manage.
Anand sir, what should be the normative data we should take, because in the view of the choroidal folds and the associated papillomacular folds, so how should we go about in this, or is there any data which exists in the literature regarding how we should go about?
This is a rare case, and you don't have normative data for nanophthalmos as such. Yes. And it's a moving game. So the issue will be on top of this, if you have a uveal effusion also popping up, then it will be a difficult thing. Yeah. So that's what you have to look. And in regular nanophthalmos cases also, we know when the magic number is 18, when it goes below 18, and so you will have, even in an absolutely flat regressed case, you will have macular folds, horizontal macular folds, which you see that's accepted pathology for nanophthalmos. So you don't have a definitive normogram. You have to look at it with all the imaging modalities you have, especially SDOCT, EOCT. I think that's
not only that. When the folds are there, in between the folds, the retina there also it is more thickened. Yeah, it is not normal, and we don't have enough numbers to create a normative data. That is the problem.
Sir, can I ask one more comment from the expert panel? What is the experience? What are the, as a VR surgeon, if we have to undergo, this patient has to, by God grace, if the patient has to undergo a surgery, what are the, like we have a lot of data on, a lot of literature on how to approach a case of nanophthalmos in an anterior segment surgery. Yeah. So what about if we have to approach a posterior segment surgery? What are the precautions we should take in case of posterior segment surgery?
First of all, I've done quite a few of these uveal effusion syndrome nanophthalmos cases. The main thing is the indication is not for every nanophthalmos uvula effusion, it is for uvula effusion with detachment. And the characteristic thing about this uvula effusion syndrome, there are three types. I would ask you to look at that article by Uyama, where he's looked at the three types of uvula effusion. Sclerostomy works in the first two, when the axial length is less. In type 2, where the sclera is abnormal but the axial length is more or less normal. In type 3, very little literature, does not work well. In 2017, I think Shields group in the IGO, in the Axel Hansel lecture, they published their results about 107 eyes or something like that, 117 eyes, where they found benefit with steroids. My personal experience is steroids don't help. They actually increase the water retention capacity, and actually I have seen cases where we've given it and it's actually increased the detachment. So what I do is sclerostomies in the two inferior quadrants. Many people do sclerostomies in all four quadrants. I don't see the point of doing sclerostomies in the upper quadrants when the detachment is inferior. In fact, you can cause, there's a very high chance of causing retinal and vitreous incarceration. I just did a case about a month back. And even if you have vitreous incarceration, that you don't worry. The fluid will just drain. When you make a sclerotomy, make sure you diathemize the margins over the in the flaps so that there is a continuous egress of fluids. So these are definite.
Thank you, Anand. For lack of time, let us move to the last speaker, Krishna Teja Palla. Can you share your presentation?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Abhishek.